Early this morning, like happens a lot, like when I have spontaneous out-of-body experiences, um, I just become consciously aware while I'm asleep, like it happens a lot. Sleep paralysis mode, vibrational state, all of that good stuff. And in this instant, I projected away from my body really quickly. I went about 2/10 of a mile, maybe it might even be a quarter mile away from where my physical body was in my bed. And there's a park, a skate park stuff, basketball courts, playground, trees, grass, all that stuff. I just went over there, and I was just kind of roaming around, kind of aimlessly. Like I didn't really have any real intentions. It just kind of all just happened the way it did, right? Gotta love these spontaneous OBE opportunities, right? When you're not prepared for them, right? So, and then about a minute goes by or whatnot, and I'm doing my thing, and what I see is what I call astral rays. Okay, I'm not sure if other people call it astral rays, but like sometimes, like especially early in the morning, how the sun comes through your curtain or blinds or window, and it just shines like that solid beam of light through your living room or kitchen. You can see little dust particles floating in the beam of light. We've all seen that, right? I just saw it in my living room a few days ago. And when I saw that, it reminded me of these astral rays I've seen a few times before in other out-of-body experiences. So this time, I see it. So it looks like a beam of light, but it goes infinitely. There's no end to it. It just goes right up into the sky. And when I see these astral rays, there's a spectrum of astral color vibrating within the light beam. And I have a cover of a certain book that kind of depicts that spectrum of color, which I would call astral colors. Let me show that to you real quick so you kind of get a better idea of what I'm trying to describe. So here we go. Just like that. So see this color, these colors here? And then especially these highlighted ones with the blues, yellows, greens, reds, etc. So that's what I'm seeing. Those colors vibrating in these astral rays when I do notice them coming through the etheric sky. Okay? So just to give you kind of a visualization of what I'm describing. So this time though, since I didn't really have any agenda in this spontaneous out-of-body experience, I'm like, you know what? Why not? Why don't I just dive right into that astral ray and just see what happens, right? Because I've never done that before. Or at least I've never thought of using them as a way to transport, travel to some other spot, right? So as soon as I dive into it, I can feel a pull, heavy force, heavy pull, and it just sucks me into the ray, into the beam of light. And for a few seconds, I don't even know how fast I'm going. I am going fast, super fast. And then a few seconds later, it's almost as if I just get spit out by the ray. And I'm just kind of like levitating maybe 5 or 10 feet above the ground in what I would just consider a random ARC. ARC stands for Astral Reality Construct. But this one's like really small. You can tell it's tiny. It's a tiny little world. And then as soon as I'm just kind of levitating there, I just come down to the ground. And in front of me is a huge hotel. 5 stories, just big. And I walk up to the entrance, and then I guess the best way of describing this is it looks like a ski lift. Okay, the ski lifts with the little seat, right? You ride up the mountain. It just kind of comes down through the entryway, and it comes down real slow, and it stops kind of in front of me, except the seat was kind of real loungy, like cushiony, you know, like really comfortable and stuff. But the design of the whole thing was like a ski lift. And I sit down. I sit down in the thing. It starts to move upward, going through the entrance, going into this hotel structure. And then after a few seconds, it felt like a ride. You know, I felt like I was at Disneyland or something. I went into the place, into this big, huge lounge area, entryway area, reception kind of area. There's a few astral beings just kind of randomly doing things and walking around and whatnot. And so my first inclination was to try to stop one of them and, you know, ask them about where I'm at and, you know, who's in charge, what is the place called. You know, I like to ask, usually that's what I do. You know, I like to research and ask questions. That's how I get a lot of the information and things I describe in some of my other videos, is because I'm actually engaging with these beings and just getting any kind of data or information to just kind of figure stuff out, right? Now, of course, in a regular dream or in a lucid state in the dream, you know, the engagement with the dream characters and how they interact with you and stuff is different. It's different than when you're interacting with actual consciousness that's centered in these other bodies in an ARC in a different dimensional space. The interaction is totally different. So, you know, I'm about to do that, and right then, this lady comes down a hallway and says, "Hello. Thank you for arriving," right? And I was like, "Well, where did I arrive to?" And she said, "I'll explain that in a second. Let me introduce myself." And then she tells me that her name is Gina Connor. And then she goes on to say that she died in Texas in 2013. I don't know any more than that. I don't know what city or, you know, how old she was when she died or any of those types of things. All I know is her name was Gina Connors, and she died in Texas in 2013. And the way she looked in front of me was she was white skin, blue eyes, and this really like thick, dark brown, kind of black hair, straight but a little curly and wavy, but a ton of hair. Like you never see so much hair, you know, on somebody. And then she says, "Well, I want to explain to you why you're here, but let me first give you a tour of the place." So I start to walk with her, and what I notice is there are no pictures on the walls, there are no mirrors anywhere, there's no bathrooms, no toilets, no running water, there's no kitchen or food or refrigerators or nothing. It's just a huge hotel structure with just a bunch of rooms, and all the rooms are just connected with like different staircases, stairs going up, stairs going down, different hallways, just intersecting. Like it looked like a big, huge maze of rooms in this big, huge, like 5-story, you know, hotel. So apparently they don't eat there. They don't use the bathroom there. There's no food. There's no waste. There's no running water. There's no showers. They are just existing in this place, right? And as I'm, you know, looking at all this stuff, observing these things, then, you know, I'm asking her, like, well, why did I get here? Like, I told her I was astral projecting from Oregon, and I was like, you probably know where that is because you passed away in Texas. You're familiar with Oregon, and I just jumped on a ray. I dived into what I call, as I'm describing to you, what I call an astral ray. And she said, well, it wasn't intended for you specifically. It was just intended for anybody who was willing to dive into it and to come here, right? Because they were asking for help. And I said, well, what do you need help with? And I get that this is more kind of a random thing. I randomly went out of body spontaneously and kind of randomly got there. But at the same time, she said her intention is that she was sending out the astral rays because she's trying to track someone to help them. Okay. So then I said, well, what do you need help with? And she said, well, me and all of these other astral beings that are here, staying here in this world, we've been stuck here for a while. Some of the other beings have been here for a long, long time. She said that when she had passed away in 2013, she was religious. She's Christian. And she said that a figure came to her, and it looked like Jesus. And this figure said that that she was going to go to heaven, but she had to go into she had to just go to a waiting room, or just kind of just wait for a bit somewhere else before she can actually go to heaven, right? And then she just kind of went along with it as she described. And the being looked like Jesus, so she trusted, what she thought was Jesus. But what happened was, it wasn't Jesus. This being led her to and put her in this ARC with this hotel, like with these other beings. And once she was there, she was locked in energetically. And once she was locked in energetically, the being then showed its real face and gave its name. And she told me that this being's name is Ashamande. Not sure if I'm saying that perfectly, but that's just the best I can remember. Ashamande. Okay? I have not researched that name. I have no idea what it is. But that's what she said. Ashamande. I shouldn't say that 3 times. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so these other beings with her are kind of just stuck in this small ARC, and they've been placed there by this other being, Ashamande. And this being hasn't come back. She hasn't heard anything. They've been stuck there. And I said, well, what do you mean by stuck? Because I was trying to tell her, again, her name is Gina Connor. I was trying to tell her, well, you're not stuck. You can just fly out of here. You can just spin. Do spins and make your own portal and just go somewhere else. And then she said, well, we can't. We're stuck. We can't get out. So what I did was, okay, hold on. And then we went to this kind of this back patio area with nice paver stones and these cool. It looked really neat. And she was out there, and there was some other these beings that are supposedly just, I guess, trapped in this little ARC. And I'm standing there. It's like, are you guys able to levitate? Are you guys able to fly? Can you do this? And then so I start to levitate up about 5 or 10 feet and just kind of hovering there. And they are looking at me like, no, we can't do that. And I said, try. And I'm trying to help them, right? And they can't. They can't get off the ground. So there's got to be some kind of energetic thing happening there, with those astral bodies to kind of destabilize them from being able to do some of the things that I can do when I'm in astral projection, right? So I don't know. I don't know what that is, and I'm trying to figure out why that is, but I don't know yet. But anyways, yeah, and that was pretty much it. That was pretty much the experience. I didn't really help them. Well, as far as helping them goes, I tried to talk to them about flying out of there and trying different techniques to go to different parts of the astral structure, do this or do that. But it's almost like they just didn't have that ability. It's almost like the their true abilities as an astral being have been diminished, or some of that energy as part of that has been taken away, or it's been compressed down. Does that make any sense? So, yeah, very interesting. And they're just stuck there, and they've been put there by Ashamande, whoever that is. But what's important to note, though, is this woman, Gina Connors, that I ran into in the astral structure with this experience. What's important to note with this is she specifically said that when she had died in 2013, she was religious, and she was approached by a being that looked like Jesus. Okay? So what does this tell you? This means that there's a lot of trickery. There's a lot of trickery going on there. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if this Ashamande had multiple, little ARCs just, kind of all over the place. I'm assuming this is Astral level 1 or 2 or somewhere around there. And he's just like holding consciousness, slash consciousness being centered in those astral bodies, and he's just holding them in these little encampments and these little ARCs and stuff. Captive, hostage, I don't know. He must be, I said Ashamande, I don't know. He, she, whatever that being is. Obviously, there's something to gain here for this being. Like, this being is gaining something from tricking people after they die and putting them and keeping them stuck in these little prisons, these astral cages, right? For whatever purpose. Siphoning energy, I don't know. I mean, it kind of makes sense that he's siphoning energy from all of the beings, because again, why can't they levitate? Why can't they fly around like I can? So that makes me wonder.
I had a very different type of out-of-body experience about a week ago, which I'll just come right out and explain and then comment on later. I laid down in bed after hours of working on the computer. I wasn't tired. I was maybe a little mentally tired, but physically I was fine. Didn't really want to sleep. Just lay down for a moment. And as soon as I did, I began to feel a kind of a pulsing energy in my body, which I have felt a couple of times before, fairly recently, and only recently, and thought, well, that's interesting, but I didn't really think about it more. But this time, the pulsing energy, when I kind of really focused on it, or went with it, I guess you could say, I just rolled out of my body. Just rolled out like it was nothing. It was the easiest out-of-body exit I've ever experienced, and it was really surprising to me. And I rolled out, and I was out of my body, and I was surprised. I'm like, wow, that was quick and easy. And I found myself, as soon as I kind of paid attention to my surroundings, I found myself in what looked like a city, a very clean city, maybe like San Francisco 20 years ago, or Seattle, or one of these places, or even New York, but very clean. And there were people mingling about. It was a cloudless, sunny day. And there was a woman standing near me, and she began to speak with me. And usually I don't interact with people when I'm out of the body. But this all seemed so kind of pleasant and flowing that I was open to communicating with her. And so we started to talk, and she moved to sit down at a little coffee table on the sidewalk that had a little tent over the top for the sun, I imagine. And I noticed that the more she talked, the more incoherent she was getting, just slightly. And she was also perhaps getting a little more animated. And it became pretty obvious that she was really just ramping up kind of a rant, and it didn't matter if I was there or not. And it got to the point where she was making no sense at all. She was just kind of incoherently babbling about stuff that she was upset about. whatever that was. I left. I kind of gently walked away. She didn't notice. And I went into the building behind where the coffee shop was, and it was like a big mall. A really nice mall. And I'm looking around, and there's mall-like things and stores and stuff, and I go up to the top, and I notice that there's kind of an exit onto the roof, and I go out there, and it's basically like a playground. It's not like sand, but it is like adobe, and it seemed very, very casual and formal, and there were children and kids playing around up there. So it seemed like it was a playground. And I noticed, now I could, on the roof of the building, there was a lot of sky. Obviously, I couldn't see any other buildings, just sky. But I couldn't see the horizon because the walls were higher than I was. So I tried to fly. I tried to levitate my body up to look over the walls to see what was on the other side of the walls. And I couldn't move. To my right, there were maybe 4 or 5 adolescents, like maybe, 14 to 18 years old, something like that, sitting in the corner, kind of acting the way adolescents act, like hanging out kind of vibe. And one of them noticed I was trying to levitate, and he said, "Oh no, you can't fly. That's prohibited here." So I'm like, okay. So I guess, so wherever I was, my abilities were limited by being in that place. It's like being there meant certain things were turned off. Okay, so I began looking around the sides of the wall and the side walls and the wall that formed the outside wall, kind of looking to see if there was a way I could maybe scale the wall to see what was over the top. And he noticed that also. And he said, "No, there's no way out. We've tried everything. They've made sure you cannot leave." Okay, so now it's starting to sound a little ominous. Okay. Nevertheless, I decided to walk over to the wall to investigate maybe a little closer myself. And the kids got up, and they kind of started walking behind me and with me, totally non-threatening, totally like, kids. And they were being really friendly, and one of them in particular was being very friendly. And he started to kind of not jostle with me, but he was kind of touching me a little. Our shoulders were touching, and I think he like maybe patted me on the back or something. And then I noticed, or I felt, that he was putting his hands in my pocket to see if there was something he could steal. And I grabbed his hand and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he didn't respond verbally, but he did respond by forcing his hand deeper into my pocket to try to get whatever was there, which, as far as I knew, there was nothing there. And at this point, we started to wrestle, which was the mistake. I was responding like I might respond in a normal human situation. I didn't respond like I was in an out-of-body situation, which was unfortunate on my part. We started to wrestle, and it became a very aggressive, very forceful fight. We were not punching, but we were really being forceful. And as our bodies were really tangled together, he said, "Don't touch my spine." And I responded in a way that was really disturbing, especially later. In that moment, obviously, it seemed like the normal thing to do. Later, it disturbed me tremendously, and this is very rare for me, but I responded with, "Your spine, I'm going to tear out your eyes." And I reached around. His head was kind of like here, kind of mangled together, and I had him in kind of a lock like this, and with the other hand, I reached towards his face and plunged my hand into his eye to tear out his eye. I mean, this was really, really violent and over the top. And when I did that, my hand was here at one moment inside his head, but then I noticed, I'm just looking at my hand, he had disappeared. I immediately popped back into my body, and my first thought was, what the hell was that? Why did I respond like that? But immediately after that, I mean, it was maybe 1 or 2 seconds after I popped back into my body, my eyes were still closed, but I saw and heard there was a glowing and smoking ember about this big flew by my face, and I could hear the sound of it burning, crackling, burning, hissing as it flew by my face. And it was bright with dark spots of, I guess, charcoal-y like stuff. This was really shocking because the vision was so clear and so deliberate and so random that it very much felt like, and in that moment as well, it felt like this was whoever I just fought with. This was the entity I was just, I was attacking, and he was kind of coming by to let me know he was still around. It took a couple of moments to kind of, I guess, come to terms with that. My eyes had been opened by that point. I closed my eyes again, and now I saw something that I've never seen before, but seemed relevant to this situation. Perhaps in the distance, there was a round disc about this so big. It could have been far, far away, and a very big disc far away, or maybe like a disc this big, closer. It was impossible to judge the distance. But it was a round disc. And out of this disc were these black smoke, like arms, like an octopus arms that were kind of coming out. And there were many of them, 15, 20 of them. And they were spreading out from this disc. They were emanating from this disc and kind of like octopusy, snaky kind of movements. They were kind of engulfing my space. And I don't believe it was just my space. I believe they were engulfing the material dimension. At least that's what it felt like. This was also a bit disturbing because it's like, well, clearly this is some sort of intelligence or entity or energy or something that is maybe a bit malevolent, or maybe really malevolent, and has some intention on coming into this world, or at least coming into my world, possibly coming into the world in general. I got the feeling it was coming into the world in general, and I had just happened to be seeing it. It dawned on me later that this I'm going to call it a fire spirit that I ran into in this, what was essentially a lower astral prison. It was a place nobody could escape, but it wasn't a horrible place. It was kind of like a nice prison, like most nice cities are. You're kind of stuck there. It's hard to get out once you're in. This fire entity was one of these characters in this prison city, lower astral prison city. And then it dawned on me that this may well have been a jinn, because the jinn, if you're not familiar with the legend, the jinn, when Allah made, the legend goes, when Allah made man from earth, he also made the jinn from fire. And there's good jinn and bad jinn. The Muslim jinn are the good jinn. They are helpful and not mischievous, and they are, they are our spiritual allies. And the kafir jinn are pretty much, mischievous, bad, and downright evil, and cause trouble.
So anyway, last night, I found myself, so this isn't like a dream. I don't know how to explain this. I found myself like in this kind of, it was kind of dark. It was just dark all over. It looked like it was nighttime, basically. It was like dark, nighttime everywhere. I found myself at the gates of this place that had walls. The walls were made of like really dark, tons and tons of bundled sticks, but dark, but not like sticks from our world, not like from trees. I can't explain it. Just these dark sticks bundled up, and all the walls went all the way around. So this big area, okay? So I found myself at the gates of this place. It was very dark, and it wasn't a beautiful place. And there's this, like, at the gates, there was this big, craggy, he wasn't made of rocks. It wasn't from this plane. Craggy, demonic, I want to say a demon creature thing. And he was standing at these gates, okay? So I found myself standing here, okay? Aware of where I am, okay? Again, this is different from a dream. Like, I've been aware of different times where I've like astral traveled, and I've gone and taught people things. Many times this has happened, where I will go and I'll find myself sitting with a group of spirits that I love and teaching their astral spirit, almost like visiting dreams. I know it sounds weird, but there's been times where I've like visited other people's dreams and taught them principles of truth and light for people that don't know. Anyway, so I'm standing at this thing, okay? And I'm looking at this big, demonic, craggy being. And he said in this very scary voice, it said to me, it said, "You are unheeded, unwanted, and unseen." Basically, and it was saying, "Go, you are not wanted here." That's what he was telling me, because I'm standing at these gates. And so he said that to me. And so, and this is when I became even more conscious, and I'm like, God, okay, so this is me standing here, seeing this whole thing. I'm like, God, what is this? What am I seeing? Okay, because I need to know. This obviously isn't a dream. Like, what's going on here? And God told me, this is an astral prison. And I said, an astral prison? Huh. Like, okay. And I said, what is an astral prison? What does this do? And I was told, this is where many different people have been bound in a prison, like they're astral beings. So the astral part of them, not their whole spirit, because you have your etheric body, which is connected to your physical body. You have your astral body, which is another part of you, and this is the one that travels in your dreams. And then there's more to it. There's just more to who we are and what we are. But so this was an astral prison, and I was like, okay, teach me. How did these people get here? Okay, so what I did is I lifted up. So I just kind of lifted up and floated up to peer over the guardian and the walls. So this Ucky guy was some guardian of the gate, right? And so I floated up to peer over the walls to look in, like, what's going on? So I'm sitting here having this conversation, and God's teaching me these things. And so I'm looking in, and I see people bound. They're not struggling. Bound in dark cords. Bound up. Just tons and tons and tons of dark cords. Oh, let me tell you right now, there's nothing new in this. Don't get excited. There's like nothing new. This is stuff that I've been talking about for, goodness gracious, when did I start my YouTube channel? These dark cords that people in places put on other people. And my husband and I, we freed ourselves. We cut all these cords and we freed ourselves from all these attachments that we didn't know were there. Entity attachments, evil entity attachments. And they were put on by dark beings in our old religion. Okay? So I've become a bit of an expert, you might say, in cutting these dark cords, because it's just a part of my plan. Mine and my husband. We came to wake up to this kind of false religion. A lot of truth, a lot of light, a lot of good memories, a lot of good people, but being controlled. All the strings were being pulled. Strings, literally. The flaxen cords were put on all these members in all these different ways. So anyway, so I'm looking into this prison, and people are bound, thick, dark cords. Most of them were prone, like on their back, or just like on their side. Some were kind of sitting, leaning against the walls of the inside. Nothing fancy, just like a whole bunch of people, a ton of people, just bound up, just laying there. And so I'm seeing this, and I'm like, what did I ask? So I said, how did these people get here? I'm like, and remember, it's their astral portion of their being, okay? So it's only a portion of them, portion of their spirit. It's not their whole spirit, because there's more of us, right? It's a portion of them that is bound and tied. So I said, how did these people get here? And God told me, they chose this. They chose this because of either who they were following or whatever set of beliefs they were espousing to. So here's the thing: is most people don't know. They don't know they were bound up. So they don't know they're corded because they can't see clearly. When you can start seeing clearly, you're like, oh my goodness, oh wow, oh, and so. But anyway, so I said, I was told that they chose this because of, again, their belief system, or the evil leaders they chose, or the many different ways we unknowingly choose darkness. We think it's light, or we think it's good. We're like, oh, this is beautiful, this is lovely, unaware of what's going on in spirit, because we need to know what's going on in spirit. I talk a lot about this, spiritual perception. We need to know what either demons and devils or angels of light and Christ himself are around us and around other people. Like, this spiritual perception needs to open up. But if you're bound by all these cords, you can't see clearly. Because, okay, so let me keep going. So I said, how can these people get out? Because my thought was like, inside I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go in there and free some people if I can. And so I said, well, how can they get out? How can we get them out? And God told me, they must do it themselves. They must do it themselves, cord by cord. I mean, sometimes you can cut a whole bunch of cords in one sitting type of thing, but they must let go of the belief systems and the people and all the different ways they've corded themselves, right? And wrapped themselves with these flaxen cords of the devil. Like the scriptures talk about these flaxen cords. That's what this is. And so I said, oh. So basically I was told, you can't do it. You can't just go and free. And so I said something like, well, am I in that? Or like, am I connected to this? Because I just didn't know. I got asked questions. And God said, no, you freed yourself. And then I was shown a glimpse, like I glimpsed up, And I saw my children, like their astral part of their being, part of their spirit, right? And they were free. So it was a glimpse of my immediate family here. Me, my husband, and my children are freed of this. We cut our cords. We literally released ourselves because we used to be corded up. We used to be bound up and corded up. I'll tell them a little more about the cords. But anyway, and so I said, is anyone, like, who's in there? So I asked, who's in there? And, I said, is there anyone I know? Like, do I know anyone in this astral prison? And they said, yes, a lot of people you love. And so I said, oh. And then interestingly enough, God brought forward, there's somebody that I know and love is starting to wake up to the corruption of their religious leaders, like the darkness of their false beliefs and religious leaders. And they said that particular person that I know and love is about 50% free, about half free, meaning they are unwinding, they're cutting and breaking and like releasing these false beliefs and releasing all of the stuff connected, cut all these cords. And they said within 1 year exactly, or approximately, I guess you'd say, within 1 year, they will be free of their cords, that one particular person. And I was like, oh, wow. Because I knew this person was doing self-work and things and kind of waking up to some of the corruption in my old religion, but I didn't know how far along they were. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So anyway, and this whole place was just dark. Like, it was like nighttime. It's like in the middle of the night type of thing. Anyway, what else did I ask? That was pretty much it for that. That was pretty much it. Because I was asking all these questions. And then from this point, God took me. And this was interesting. Oh, I asked this. See, this is why I need to do it fresh. Because I didn't write down yet. It's only been a handful of hours, a few hours since I woke up. And I'm like, So I haven't written it down yet. I need to write it down. Or this is me writing it down. Anyway, okay, so I asked. So I'm like, okay, the people that are bound up, their astral bodies are bound up. I said, can they dream? Like, are they dreaming? Because I just don't know. I'm like, well, I know astral bodies travel in the night. Our astral body leaves our physical body and can travel. And they said that, yes, they still dream, but a lot of their dreams are controlled. So a lot of the dreams of the people bound up are easily controlled and manipulated by who's pulling the strings in their life, which, and that there's many different places and forces and that of each person, because different people are bound up by different things. You could be in a belief system that's like non-religious. Like I come from a religious belief system that was very corded. The whole belief system and the leaders and all these different things had me and my children and my husband all bound up in this place, but we didn't know it because we were like, oh, true, oh, true, oh, truth. We thought we had all the truth. And then God woke us up. Wake up. Anyway, oh yeah, sorry. So I said, can they dream? And they said, yes. I was being told and shown. God said, yes, they can dream, but it is very controlled. It's in a controlled environment. It's like they're given things. Like, they have some freedom in different things, but it's what all the people holding the strings, the dark beings, you'd say, can kind of control things. So I said, okay, can they astral travel? Like, can they go places? And they said, no, they really can't. Like, they really can't leave this. When they're so bound up, a portion of their spirit is contained. It's kind of contained, meaning in their waking lives, the people pulling the strings, just referring to my old religion, they're all wrapped up in everything their religion, okay? So their rites and rituals, even their underwear, even their leaders, their special buildings, temples, they are so wrapped up in all this belief system that everything they do is all about like their whole life. And they don't know that the strings are being pulled. They don't know. But a large part of it is because they cannot perceive what is going on around the leaders. And they can't perceive even what's going on around themselves.